I was once the marked wolf, now I am the hunted prey. Chapter 28 Pancakes for brunch. We should invest in a mini fridge. Why would we do that? Because sometimes I get thirsty, but I don't want to get up because you're warm. I explained as we parked a garage intended for the pack house. With all of the people live in the house, it only makes sense that all of their vehicles are stored in a giant garage adjacent to it. If we had a mini fridge beside our bed, I just have to lean over, grab some juice, and then pass back out. Matteo hummed as he whipped his sleek, black car, that I didn't know the name of, into his parking spot. I never cared enough to know the names of cars in the past, and I didn't now. He put the car in park and shut it off using the button which I didn't understand. I was always convinced that cars use keys, but I guess not. Your stomach okay? He asked, making little butterflies erupt in my stomach. I silently prayed that I wasn't about to throw up. I nodded with a smile and grabbed the bottle of motion sickness medication. Yeah, this is like my new heroin, I joked, but Matteo found it anything but comical. His serious facial expression left me confused for a moment before memories of when he had explained to me when we first met that his mother died of a drug overdose. That changed my attitude really fast. I mean, not heroin. No, not that. I don't like needles. I babbled, trying to make the situation better, but only managing to make it worse. Thankfully, Matteo, being his unemotional self, just rolled his eyes, took the medicine from me, and got out of the car. Hey, wait for me. I have small legs. I hollered as I jumped out of the car and ran after him. I swear I heard him chuckle, but by the time I caught up to him to see his face, he was completely stoic. I know you laughed, I stated confidently as Matteo pressed some buttons on the security system outside of the door. Shut up, he countered, making me smile. The click of the lock sounded, alerting us that the door was now open, and we entered. Immediately, we were greeted by someone who I felt like I hadn't seen in weeks. You guys said you'd be home an hour ago. I've been waiting here the entire time like an idiot, Jack complained. He's not lying. Daniela's voice sounded from somewhere in the area. From where? I don't know. Well, she was hungry and wanted to try pancakes, so we got brunch, Matteo said casually. Pancakes, Jack repeated as if he wasn't positive that he heard Matteo correctly. Brunch. Yeah, they were so good. My dad never let me eat them. I always wanted to try pancakes, but my father wasn't a fan of my brother and I eating sugary food. We had a pretty solid diet of meat. Since when do you pancakes? Jack asked Matteo. I don't. Kaya ate them. I just sat there, he stated simply. What? Jack whispered to himself in confusion. I could pretty much guess it was because Jack knew just as much as I did how impatient Matteo is and how much he dislikes being around me when I eat food. That was never a secret. Anything I should be aware of before I'm pleasantly surprised. Matteo cut to the chase. Sarcasm dripped from his monotonous, deep tone. Nope, not really. You've got a phone call this morning, but that's about it. Patrols are smooth, and the group we sent to Parva's pack returned yesterday afternoon all in one piece. Once again, I had the situation under control. Jack smirked proudly. He was such a dork. Matteo hummed, unimpressed. Without another word, Matteo pushed past Jack and headed toward the direction of his office. I was gonna follow behind him, but Jack stopped me before I had the opportunity to. His hand had a firm grasp around my bicep, halting me from continuing forward. What? I asked, looking into his emerald green eyes that no longer held any joking emotions within them. Do you want to talk about what happened? He asked, making my lips flatten. I knew he was just asking because he was trying to be supportive, but it really was not wanted. I have no clue what you're talking about, I stated without a single waver in my tone. He took my hint and nodded, sending me an apologetic smile. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I'm just glad you're back. Kaye, we all missed you around here. Jack chuckled as he released my arm. It's been too quiet. It's been like a day. Relax, I retorted with a laugh of my own. A day too long. I rolled my eyes at his childishness. Whatever. Seriously. It's weird around here. You and Mateo had been bouncing in and out of our pack grounds. I think everyone was starting to miss the constant arguing over nothing that happened constantly. Especially now that the two of you seem to weirdly be getting along so well. Jack explained. He wasn't wrong. The day Mateo and I left, we were still a bit rough around the edges. But we've practically been saints since then. Minus a few little screw-ups. Well, I guess we're just evolving. Not trying to think too much about it. I'm going to go find Mateo. Tu es agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfading patience, enthusiasm. Tu es agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfading patience, enthusiasm. I guess hanging out with me isn't as fun as it was before. I get it, Jack joked, feigning hurt. Oh, shut up. I snapped, punching his shoulder. Nope. Get out of here. Leave me like you always do. You're so stupid. I chided before turning away from him. We will talk later. I swear. I shouted back at him as I made my way down the hall. Yeah. I had to admit, I did miss talking to Jack. It was weird to admit considering I never had anyone that wasn't blood related to Nis in the past. But I missed Jack. I guess I could consider him even a friend at this point. Gives me chills. Knock. I'm coming in. I hollered as I tapped on the door to Mateo's office with my knuckles. I opened the door to be greeted by the sight of Mateo standing over his desk. He was looking down at it, unmoving. I couldn't see the look on his face. His back was the only thing facing me in that moment. Mateo, what did you do? His words were as soft as air. It was as if it hurt him to say them. Almost like he didn't want to believe he was actually asking me that question. What? Not sure what he was talking about. He couldn't have possibly known that I accidentally dropped his toothbrush in the toilet on our way out of the hotel this morning. I washed it, but I was going to replace it. I swear. Mateo didn't say anything. He didn't turn to face me. He only pressed a button on the phone. My eyebrows drew together in confusion. Alphane's easier. It's Adrian Rich. My heart stopped. My blood went cold. I couldn't remember how to breathe. I wanted to run out of the room, but my feet were glued to the floor as the audio continued to play. I would like to apologize in advance for the inconvenience. I am truly sorry for the abrupt call, especially at this time in the morning, but I would like to ask for assistance on behalf of the Vindictor Pack. A rogue wolf has escaped our custody, murdering my mate in the process a few weeks ago. We've been searching for her ourselves, but we have yet to come up with anything. We believe she's dangerous, and we would greatly appreciate your services. We just want to put an end to the issue before anyone else has had or anything else happens. Thank you for your time. That's very vague, I replied uncomfortably. Was my tongue always this dry? Yeah, that's what I thought too. But it until I saw this. Angling his computer screen in my direction. Yeah, my tongue has never been this dry. In the computer screen was an email with 2 pictures attached. They were both of me when I was 15. One was a front view, and one was a side. There was a large purple bruise surrounding my left eye which stood out vividly against my pale skin. My lip was busted. My shirt I had almost torn down the shoulder, allowing everyone to see the wound on the inside. And to top it all off, I was smiling like a morph EFK in the photos. I looked like someone just told me that I had just won the lottery when, in reality, I had just been caught for slitting the neck of their beta. That's a terrible picture of me, I huffed, crossing my arms. The loud slam of Mateo's fist on his desk caused me to jump. I went from irritated to terrified really fast. Oh yeah, I forgot. I've been busted. Kai, do you know what the FK this means? Mateo growled, turning around to face me. To say he was angry was an understatement. I'd never seen Matteo lose control of himself to his wolf. It was something I found so interesting about him. That was completely out the window now. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Matteo's eyes were completely glazed by darkness. You could hardly tell that under it all. There were indeed blue eyes. Not exactly, but I'm just going to assume it's not good. I answered. It was a terrible response. I knew as soon as I saw steam practically start coming out of Matteo's ears. He was livid. You murdered the Luna of one of the strongest packs in North America. Kaye. They're going to King hunt you down and kill you. So, I was right. It wasn't good. I mumbled quietly. I paused for a sec and thinking about what he had just said. Wait a minute. I didn't kill that dumb-ass Luna. I snapped her neck. She should have recovered from that. I accused. I may not be a genius, but I did know my own species. Matteo seemed to shut down at that point. His eyes went blank, and an unreadable expression replaced his obviously angry face. He seemed extremely relaxed, which freaked me out 10 times more than when he was screaming 2 seconds ago. He definitely just lost all hope for me. Right then. She's dead. Kaye. Because she was a human, he stated, making my heart drop. She was human. No, I shook my head, not believing a word he was telling me. Her scent, it was there. I swear. I smelled it. The scent of a wolf was there. I expected like a scream or something. But instead, Matteo began laughing. It wasn't like a, oh, what a big misunderstanding laugh, no. It was a psychotic, bone-chilling laugh containing absolutely no amusement that had even the hairs on the back of my neck standing on end. She was marked. Caillou smelled the mark from her alpha mate. The same mate that is currently hunting you down to King kill you. You murdered a Luna. A human Luna. Matteo. When were you going to tell me? He interrupted me. I shook my head, looking anywhere but into his eyes. I couldn't do it. I didn't even know. I thought she'd wake up. When were you going to tell me that you were locked up for 15 years? Making my chest burn. I assumed he knew that by the dates on the pictures, or else some information was also sent within that email. I wanted to die in that very moment. But not like forever. I wanted just a temporary death. Just for like the next hours. I opened my mouth trying to find something to say. But I couldn't. I cursed my father in that moment. Maybe if I attended school, I would have had a better vocabulary to talk my way out of the situation. You were never going to say a damn thing, were you? Did I have to tell you? You got a King rogue for a mate. It never crossed your mind that I was a murderer, that I was a monster. This is how we live. Don't tell me that you enough to never think that lowly of me. Look at me. You know me. What more do you expect? I shouted, feeling not only hate for the situation, but for myself as well. I had to survive. Matteo. I had to get out of there. Morals were out the window at that point. The room settled into a tense silence. I think neither of us knew what to say. We didn't know what to say to each other or about the situation. It was just silent. You were the rogue wolf that murdered their beta 4 years ago, weren't you? Matteo asked in the same tone that he had when I first entered the room. He was terrified to hear my answer yes. I wasn't about to lie. Not when he already knew the truth. Why? I gulped at his question. I don't know. Anymore. It made more sense back then. I was trying my hardest to sound as honest as possible. I wish I could take it all back. I'm not that person anymore. Matteo removed his gaze from me and moved it to the floor. His teeth caught his bottom lip and just held it there for a moment. It was obvious that he was deep in thought. How many others were there? I clenched my teeth together, wishing, somehow, that this was easier. I really don't know. I mumbled quietly. I never kept count. There were too many to keep count of. There were too many accidents. Too many almost deaths. Too many I didn't knows. There were too many people that I did know and too many people that I didn't. There were too many people that got in the way or were just in the wrong place at the wrong time. There were too many people to keep count of. Kaye, don't lie to me. Mateo, I really don't know. I affirmed, raising my voice. There's just too many. It could be hundreds for all I know. But why? He repeated. I drew in a large breath and ran a shaky hand through my hair. It's all that I knew. The room fell into a deadly silence. Mateo's thick brows were drawn together, and a frustrated expression took over his features as if he were trying to figure out the hardest math problem in the universe. I'm sorry. I choked out unwillingly. Sorry was such a foreign word to me. I wasn't even sure if I was pronouncing it correctly, but I can't change what happened. I thought differently before I met you. A part of me wanted to take back the last sentence. It hurt a little piece of me to admit it, but I knew I had to get it out there. If there was any chance that Mateo wasn't going to turn me into Alpha Rage, I had to use his emotions against him. I had to use his feelings toward me in order to keep me protected. His intense stare stayed glued to the floor. His breathing was calm, and he seemed to have full control of himself again. His posture was no longer tense or rigid. It was relaxed. He seemed totally in control. I, on the other hand, was sweating like a pig while I was waiting for my impending doom. I just wanted to scream, if you're going to kill me, just do it already. I refused to let that if King Pat tried to take anything else that's mine from me. What? Was I losing my mind? Or did he just say something angry that wasn't directed toward me? Was I in the clear? Or was he having a delayed reaction, and the wrath was coming in like 2 minutes? He looked up from the ground to face me. You're my Luna, and they'll have to kill me before they even lay a hand on you. The determination and sincerity in his voice sent a chill through my bones. His cold eyes held a darkness within them that I'd never seen before in Mateo. It made my insides feel like they were shutting down, but it also made a smile want to burst through the surface of my terrified features. I didn't allow that to happen. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Because I figured now was not the time to be smiling like a lunatic. The look in his eyes was something just above evil. I would be lying if I said that it didn't scare me just as much as it excited me. God have mercy on anyone who dares to even try. This is going to end in a war, isn't it? I don't even know why I was asking. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I murdered an Alpha's mate in cold blood. There's no way that no one is going to snitch. Almost every Alpha in the continent knows who I am, now. Well, let's just hope you made a good enough impression with those Lunas, Mateo stated. I gulped, remembering all the commotion I had caused at the beginning of the week. The only hope I really had was that they still felt some sort of admiration for me after standing up to Mateo and trying my hardest to be civil. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I knew that was a long shot. I think they only got along with me because Nilicon took a weird liking toward me. That could be totally forgotten at this point. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. What if we just fly me to another continent? To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I always wanted to spend a little time in Russia. Yeah, and leave you alone. Not happening. I sighed in exasperation. Why did he have to be so difficult? Well, how the hell am I going to be safe here? I countered, which seemed to irritate him. I'm assuming he never really had to argue with anyone on matters like this. Mateo wasn't someone who knew much about compromise. Kai, if you're out there alone, I can't protect you. Okay, but at least I can run and hide if I'm an ocean away. I've done it all before, I stated stubbornly. Did you have every pack in Northern America and possibly more hunting you down at the same damn time? He asked, making my teeth clench. Well, no, let us try to figure this out together. This isn't something you can charm your way out of, Kai. You'd be surprised the situations I can charm my way out of. I chided with my arms crossed. I guess I wasn't the best with compromise. To my agent extraordinaire, wildest, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I knew he was right. To my agent extraordinaire, wildest, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. There's no way in hell that I would survive outside of CS territory. Matteo raised a brow. I assumed by the unconvincing look on my face that he already knew I was going to lose this argument. I needed his protection. There was no way in hell I could possibly escape Vindicta. They already tracked me down and took me into custody once just by themselves. They could definitely do it again, with the help of other packs across the continent. God, fine. Agreeing unwillingly as if someone was holding a knife to my throat. What's the plan of action? Well, he began as he took a seat in his leather chair behind his desk. I secretly wondered how many times Jack had sat in it and pretended to be Matteo while we were gone. I would have done it like 9 times. We need to make sure there are packs out there that actually like you. First of all. Great. Because that won't be the hardest. Most depressing thing ever. And that was the beginning of the shit storm I had managed to create with one dumb-ass decision. Go figure. Chapter 29. Yuck. I think I'm maturing. I've been on high alert recently. Honestly, I think everyone has been. The pack was notified about our little predicament. Naturally, they did the whole pack wolf thing and got way too protective. I can't even use the bathroom without someone waiting outside of the door. It's as if they think a pack member from Vindicta is going to crawl up through the toilet and take me away through the sewers. On the other hand, Matteo and I have never been closer. As cheesy as it sounds, we don't spend every waking moment together. I don't think we could truly manage that without one of us killing the other, but we do spend an unusually large amount of time together. We don't argue much. To my agent extraordinaire, wildest, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. If anything, we don't argue at all compared to how we used to be. I'm trying to learn to be a better while Matteo is attempting to be more patient. We both pretty much suck. But we're getting there, even though my way of being a better is nodding like I understand what he's talking about. And his form of being more patient is just acting like he doesn't hear me when I say something stupid. I think we should write a book for new mates on how to get along if you hate each other. Matteo thinks I need to learn the alphabet first. To my agent extraordinaire, wildest, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. It's been a little over a week since Matteo had the phone call from Vindicta's Alpha. To my agent extraordinaire, wildest, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Since then, we've had about 4 small groups ranging from 2 to 5 people try to come into our borders. Since then, we've also had about 4 small groups ranging from 2 to 5 that need to be either buried or burned. One would think after the first group, they would stop sending over more. I already find it all to be a bit humorous. To my agent extraordinaire, wildest, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I admit I was a bit nervous. I'd never been stuck in a predicament like this where I couldn't run light. But after watching Matteo handle everything over the past week, I just think it's funny how Adrian Rich thinks that his pack could even set eyes on me. Matteo may be a bit violent, but he's much more intelligent than I have ever given him credit for. He briefly explained to me how his pack is set up. Once he took it over from his father, he set up several factions within his territory and put what I like to think of as a makeshift alpha in charge. Basically, since Matteo's pack and territory expands over several states across the eastern United States, it's too large of an area for him to efficiently make sure his pack members are not only obeying his rule, but are also okay. To my agent extraordinaire, wildest, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. He split off his pack into factions based on location and designated pack members from his central pack, which I am used to living with, as their leaders. Those pack members then report back to Matteo. Matteo claims that there are 20 out of these little packs stretched across his territory. To my agent extraordinaire, wildest, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. We basically have 28 packs ready to fight for us. Not only that, but we also have Socias on our side. I can only owe that to my brother. A few other packs have stepped forward thanks to alliances with either Matteo or Socias saying they will help defend us. But everyone else has been laying pretty low. Everyone except Baron Mendax. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. He made sure that everyone was aware that UI would be aligning themselves with Vindicta. It honestly shocked me. I thought for sure that Baron would be in my favor, but I suppose that was just me being naive. I can't really expect anything from someone like him. Basically, that is what it's coming down to. Vindicta, UI, and several smaller packs supporting their cousin Socias and a few others supporting ours. The only other pack we could potentially hope for help would be packs south of us, including APSENs. But the reality of them helping was little to none. They hadn't been involved in conflicts for years. Their neutrality level was a perfect 10 out of 10. We were basically just sort of stuck at the moment. Put it down, Matteo stated lowly, not even bothering to look in my direction. I froze and slowly released the calculator. It's not that hard. Matteo, I really can't do it. I whined looking down at my math problem. I know. There are much more pressing matters to attend to. And I am trying to learn how to do long division. But Matteo is trying to figure out something to do with the southern border's defenses, which is something that I don't entirely understand. I tried to help, but couldn't follow any of the mumbo-jumbo that he was saying. So he is trying to multitask and teach me math. I think he's just trying to keep me quiet. I wasn't complain. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I didn't want to leave him and have to go mingle with other people. Kai, I didn't give you anything that was difficult. Yes, you did. I challenged, holding up the paper to him even though he was still not looking at me. What could you possibly not understand? Finally looking up at me, I stated as I pointed to a number, his brows furrowed in confusion, and his head tilted to the side slightly. I'm still not understanding what you're not getting. He looked thoroughly confused at this point. How can I divide this to by a 3? I said as if he were missing half of his brain cells. To Kai, that's a 6. My mouth dropped slightly as I quickly turned the paper back around to analyze the number. Wow, look at that. That is a 6. I mumbled quietly as I wrote it to above the division line. I was about to move on to my next problem when I felt Matteo's intense gaze settled on me. It made my skin crawl a bit because I felt like he was silently judging me for thinking a 6 was a 2. In my defense, the way he writes his 2s makes them look like backward 6s. And it confuses me. I looked up to meet his gaze. His eyes were glued to me, but it didn't seem judgmental. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. It looked almost curious. You okay? Not sure what else to say. You're not even close to the person that I thought I'd end up mated to. But somehow I can't imagine going through hell with anyone else. He replied honestly. Sure, it wasn't the most romantic thing, but for Matteo that was more than enough. Why do you say that? No reason. Deciding that I wasn't going to get anything else out of Matteo like that for days. I just returned my attention back to my math problems. Crap. This number's in the thousands. How would you feel about speaking to your father? Instantly, my head snapped up to meet Matteo's gaze. Once again, his expression hadn't changed, but I'm 100% sure that mine did. No, I replied without any hesitation. I know that you don't want to see him. This conversation is cancelled. I interrupted before he had the chance to finish his sentence. In that moment, going to find Jack sounded like a great idea. I stood up from Matteo's desk and began walking away when his strong hand grasped my wrist and brought me to a halt. Koya, you said that your mother is an Alpha's daughter. He noted. I had no doubt that Jack had told him, but considering I don't believe I had ever mentioned it to him, that means somewhere out there, there's a pack filled with your family. We need that. We have Socias on our side. The packs that support Socius will follow. I argued, knowing that it was a very weak argument with very little support. You murdered someone's mate. Alliances might not help this. To my agent extraordinaire, enemy, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Then, we find my mother or her pack ourselves. F.K. Parker. I tried to reason. I was in absolutely no hurry to come in contact with my dad. Again, we need his help, Kai. I know he's neither our first choices, but he's the best choice at this point. I had to think for a moment. He had a point, a very valid point. Well, even if I wanted to. You said it's not safe outside of pack grounds. I accused, thinking I was definitely going to outsmart him with that one. Socius isn't just a 30-minute drive from here. Well, that's why he's here. Wait, what? There was absolutely no way. I just heard him correctly. Maybe I needed to go get my hearing checked. Yeah, there's definitely like a piece of bread stuck in my ear or something. Parker is here. Matteo repeated. That response was the first one to ever actually cause me to swing at my mate. I don't mean like a slap. No. I full on was hoping that my fist was going to knock out a tooth. Matteo managed to grab my fist in his hand and spin me around so that he was able to hold me against his chest and restrain my arms. If I didn't feel so betrayed, I would have definitely made a quick, little internal, comment about how much I enjoyed our position. It was not the time. To my agent extraordinaire, enemy, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Koya, please hear me out. Matteo begged, but his tone of voice was more like a demand. How could you do this? You of all people should know how much I don't want to see him. I accused as I struggled against him. I was hurt. I won't lie. Do you actually think for 1 second that I want to put you through that? I don't. But, FKIA, I'd rather you be pissed and upset with me and the rest of the world than dead. I refuse to apologize to you for that. I ground my teeth together trying to think of an appropriate response. Dead. He honestly thinks that I'm bound to end up dead if we don't get my dad's help. I Def King run before I wound up dead. Matteo, whether you'd like it or not, I stated bitterly as I twisted myself violently out of his grasp. You act like I don't know how to take care of myself. I'm not some little princess that hid behind a pack my entire life. Our eyes were staring directly into one another's. I was silently daring him to say something, anything. He just seemed to be attempting to solve some riddle that I was throwing his way. It's not that complex. Alpha it. Fine. He eventually concluded after a moment of our challenging stares. What? It's not that easy. It's never that easy. If you honestly believe that not seeking help from Parker is the best way to solve this situation, then I'll believe you. He stated simply as he sat back down into his chair. You're just gonna agree with me? I asked in disbelief. What I really wanted to ask was if he was on drugs. Yep, he nodded, seeming completely genuine. If you think it's the best plan for you and everyone around you, then that'll be the plan. As if the conversation never happened, Matteo's attention resumed back to whatever he had been previously looking at on his desk. What? I repeated, earning Matteo's attention. Once again. What? His eyes filled with a mischievous innocence that managed to irritate and stung me all at once. I just stood there like an idiot with my jaw slightly dropped. I was utterly confused by the situation. Matteo took my never-ending silence as a sign to continue what he was doing. WHA, you just what? Can you grab Jack for me? I forgot to ask him about God. Knock it off. I can't take this whole, I trust your opinion, thing you've got going on. I snapped, finally earning me his full attention. No, I interrupted him before he had time to say anything stupid that would further confuse me. This isn't how this is supposed to go. We both know that, Huck. I couldn't even finish my sentence. I was wrong. I knew that. He knew that. So why the hell wasn't he fighting me on this? As I groaned in anger, I spun around on my heel and began exiting Matteo's office. Where are you going? Matteo's voice carried to my ears from behind me. To speak to my father. If he wasn't going to lead me in the right direction, I guess I was going to have to do it myself. Yuck. I think I'm maturing. Chapter 30. Just some guy couldn't do it. I made my small journey over to the cellars. They were located underground about a mile or two away from the pack house. It made sense to me to keep people prisoner a small distance from the heart of a territory in case anything were to happen that they would escape. Some packs kept their cellars under their pack house. As someone who spent a portion of their life in a cell surrounded by people like me, I never understood it. I never understood keeping threats that close to you. I talked to 2 of the guards that were standing outside of the cellar entrance. They were nice. They told me that I could go right in because my mate had apparently told them in advance that I would be coming. It took me about 20 minutes to eventually get the balls to go inside, and only about 4 seconds to turn right back around and head back to the house. Like I said, I couldn't do it. I know. Me Kai A Lish, being too afraid to speak to her father. Can I really be blamed? To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. After the disaster that happened last time, I truly planned on never speaking to, let alone seeing, him again. I made a mental promise to myself that I wouldn't let myself get that low. But here I am, now avoiding my mate at all costs, so he doesn't realize how big as a baby I am because of much of a wimp to speak to my father. Hello, Luna. A woman greeted me as I walked past her on my way into the pack house. She was an older lady, so I assumed she was just in to visit one of her kids. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Her comment took me by surprise. I don't think either of us were prepared for the UCK hi that I responded with. It was her mostly. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I don't think many wolves are used to their lunas gagging at the mention of their title. I made my way into the house, leaving the woman there speechless. Talk about a first impression. I was definitely not on my way to get or even speak to Matteo. He would just make things with my dad worse. He's just a protective. Sometimes. Sure, Matteo has the ability to calm me down like no other person. But he also has the ability to put all of my emotions into overdrive. I'm not sure how I'd react with both him and my father in the same room. Again. And to be honest, I didn't want to find out. I wasn't about to get Jack. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. He was like the mother I never had. He'd just give me some big speech about doing what I think is right and what is best for me, and yada 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 blee. I appreciate Jack, but I'd rather not be treated like a toddler. Hey you. I snapped at some girl sitting in the first floor lounge room. Her head snapped around to make eye contact with me. Immediately, she became defensive, looking like she was going to stand up and try to rip my insides out through my belly button until she realized who I was. Her features softened, and she lowered her gaze. Luna, she said respectfully, making me scrunch up my face. Yeah, I replied while doing my best to hold back my gag. Shaking off my disgust, I pointed at her accusingly. I didn't miss how her eyes grew, and her face paled a bit. She looked like she was about to pee herself. You hang out with Daniela, right? Like your friends? She nodded. I knew I had seen her and some other girls hanging out with Daniela on a few occasions, so you'd probably know where she is. I concluded, earning me another nod. I groaned in frustration with her wordless state. Christ, I'm not your alpha. You can speak. Yeah, she drug out with another nod. Well, take me there. I deadpanned. I wanted to laugh and simultaneously scoff as I watched her quickly jump up from the couch as if someone just lit a match under her. You can just follow me, she said as she began to walk out of the lounge. That was sort of the point, I retorted as I trailed behind her. At this point, I rarely noticed the looks that Matteo's pack gave me in the pack house. but as I trailed just inches behind the girl, it was impossible to not notice the looks people were sending my way. They looked almost fearful, not for me, but for the poor girl who I decided to use as my own personal GPS. What did they honestly think I was going to do to her? Beat her? Humiliate her? Burn her? Kill her? I get that I don't tend to associate myself with any of the people in the house other than Matteo, Jack, and Donnie on a good day. But was it really that weird to think that I was capable of being friendly? I brushed off all of the weird stares that I was receiving, and followed the girl all the way to a third-floor lounge. She stopped at the entrance and pointed toward the couch. Immediately, I spotted a familiar abundance of long, blonde locks cascading off the arm of the couch. "Leave," I stated lowly. "Yes, Luna," she replied quietly, and quickly left my side. "Wow, you're finally accepting your place." Daniela chuckled from the couch. I thought I had been quiet enough that she wouldn't hear, but that was probably pretty stupid of me to think. I decided to ignore her statement rather than getting into an argument, and made my way over to her instead. She was laying across the couch reading a book. Her eyes never moved away from the words on the pages to meet mine. "Is there a reason that you're staring at me like that?" "I need you to come with me," I stated, trying to keep the embarrassment out of my voice. "To where agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." Seeming uninterested. "To speak to my father. Is that an order as my alpha?" she asked, making my brows knit together. I shook my head, but she wasn't even looking at me to see it, so I just felt like a total idiot. "No, it, as a plea as a friend," I stated bravely. I never really thought of Donnie as a friend, but I guess she was as close to a friend, besides Jack, that I had. My response managed to catch her attention. Our gazes met one another, and the snarky look on her face fell. For the first time, I think Daniela actually felt something other than hate from me. "Okay, kid." That's how we ended up back at the entrance of the cellars. The guards who I had brief conversations about Taco Tuesdays and how the sun is actually just a star about an hour ago greeted us. "Back again, Luna?" the one on the right side of the door asked. "Yay," I grunted as I opened the cellar door. The musty smell of the cellars immediately violated my senses. "You are already here?" Donnie asked as she trailed behind me. "I don't want to talk about it," I muttered, causing Donnie to laugh. The door shut behind us with a very loud thud. It made everything seem much more dramatic than it actually was. I wasn't afraid of the cellars. I didn't even feel the slightest bit of discomfort in them. Maybe a few years ago I would have, but they just seemed like another room to me. What made me uncomfortable were some of the people inside of the cells. One guy was missing an arm. "Tell me that is not just strange." "This way, idiot," Donnie piped from behind me as I was about to ask what happened to the dude's arm. I turned to find her, but the only thing left in the hole was the echo of her voice that trailed away down another hole. "Come on, you might want to get that looked at," I noted to the guy missing his arm sitting in the corner of his cell. He growled lowly at me, and I took that as my signal to leave Dan. I shouted, earning me at least 7 low growls, 2 shut-ups, and 1 very irritated, "Someone ripped the bitch's throat out." The people in here were much more irritable than anyone was in Vindicta. I rounded a corner to see Daniela kick someone in the head through the openings of the steel bars of their cell door. His body was limp on the ground, and the kick didn't seem to faze him at all. "Dan, he's dead." It didn't take a genius to see it. "Yeah," she mumbled as she took a key out of her pocket and unlocked the cell. She walked in, stood above the man, and in one swift motion stomped her foot down on his head. That was the most unnecessary thing I've ever seen. Boredly, she removed her now bloody shoe from the man's now caved-in head. He had obviously been rotting away down here for a few days. The stench was a clear indicator of that. The smell was only getting worse now that the man's head had a size 7 hole in it. Just making sure. Fair enough. I shrugged and continued following her to another wing of the cellars. This part was different. It was quieter. It was calmer. It made every hair on my body stand on end. "What is this?" I asked, running my hand across the now white walls, which were a big change from the cracking grey ones. She hummed, seeming to try to think of the best way to put what she was thinking. "We like to call it time out." Oh, I wasn't sure if I should press the question more or not. Darnie is pretty straightforward with me, so I figured if she was holding back then I should probably just drop it. We made it to a large door that almost looked like the entrance to a walk-in freezer. The thought crossed my mind that maybe they froze him. It wasn't too far-fetched for Mateo. I'd heard about this pack doing worse. As Daniela quickly typed something into a keypad to unlock the door, she turned to look at me. "Take a breath. Kaie, you look like you're gonna pass out," she advised, making me aware of my body. I felt cold, which I figured was just from being underground, but I was sweating like a whore in church. My hands felt clammy. I couldn't stop tapping my foot, and I'm pretty sure I was twitching like I was on cocaine. Honestly, I couldn't pinpoint why I was so terrified of seeing my dad. I knew there was no way he could physically get to me. Even before, I knew there was no way. He was chained inside of a cell, and he most likely still is. He couldn't touch me, or hit me, or slap me, or come in any physical contact with me. Maybe spit on me if he had really good aim, but he couldn't do anything to physically cause me any harm. I had the advantage, yet I still felt like we were on an uneven playing field with him having the upper hand. There's absolutely no reasonable way for me to describe it. "You want me to come in with you?" Daniela asked, which managed to pull me from my thoughts. She had the door unlocked. She just had to open it. "No," I replied quickly as I grabbed the handle. "Just stay out here, and get me out if things sound bad." "How bad?" she asked as my thumbs subconsciously drew circles on the door handle. "You'll know." With that, I entered the room. I expected to see some cells or even another door, but instead I was trapped inside of a bright white room with my father. He was sitting on a chair in the center of the room silently. He wasn't chained to anything. He was just sitting on a chair which happened to be as white as the walls that surrounded him. We were making direct eye contact, so I knew he knew I was there. He was just choosing to not speak to me. "Dad," I said quietly. I hate how much it sounded like I was afraid. He didn't seem at all fazed. His icy blue eyes were just as cold and frozen as the rest of his demeanor. "Can we just talk about this?" I watched as his jaw suddenly clenched, making me take a step back to the point where my back was against the door. "Talk about what?" "Kaie, your disgusting excuse of a brother who abandoned his family just to join another. Or you deciding that it would be a grand idea to do the same thing. Maybe we could start with the mark on your neck from the alpha wolf who put me here in the first place. You want to take your pick? Or should I?" My stomach was doing cartwheels, and I couldn't hold eye contact with him any longer. I dropped my gaze to the floor as my chest began to feel as though someone had made me swallow a lit match. "I never told you to be this way," I whispered. A part of me wanted him to hear it, and another part of me was praying that he didn't. "What was that?" he questioned. I didn't respond. I kept my gaze glued to the floor. "Koya, so help you God if I have to ask you one more time." "Nothing." I refused to open my mouth. I refused to move my body in any way. At this point, I was debating on whether I should breathe or not. I suddenly heard the soft scrape of the chair on the floor, followed by footsteps that were coming closer to me. The shadow of my father crept its way over me, making me feel even colder than I already had been. The only thing in my line of sight were the shoes on his feet. It was completely silent. In a matter of seconds, his hand grasped the back of my hair and yanked it down so that I was looking directly at him. My jaw was shaking so badly I could have busted a tooth. I was trying to look at anything but his eyes, but I was too terrified to remove my gaze. "What did you say?" His words stung like venom. All the blood in my veins ran cold, and I was fearful that I was going to have a heart attack by how fast my heart was racing. I didn't know what to say, so I did the one thing that seemed perfect for me to do in that moment. I spit right in his face. My father took a step back because of my action. Then after a second or two, it sunk in what I had done. I immediately regretted using my saliva as weaponry against my father. I didn't have time to respond before the palm of my father's hand made contact with my left cheek. The force knocked me backward into the door and the back of my head made contact with it. Pain surged through my head and cheek, and my ears were ringing like little alarms telling me to get the hell out. I never made a sound. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I never moved my hands to my face. I never cried. I just clenched my teeth, rolled my shoulders back, and stared down at the floor. Do you want to tell me what you said? Now. I'm going to leave now, I whispered, causing him to scoff. Good. Get out of here. You can come back when you stop acting like a child, he stated coldly. I nodded, turned around, and left the room. Well, that was what the FK happened to your face, Donnie asked as she grabbed my face to examine it. No doubt. There was a large red mark from where my father's palm collided with my cheek. Mateo is going to kill me, she whispered to herself as she continued looking at my cheek. Stop, I snapped as I pushed her off of me. Let's go. Did he tell you? She asked, making me raise an eyebrow. Tell me what? I'm not stupid. Kaye. I'm also the Gamma. So Mateo informs me of most things when they are pack-related or for your safety, she stated, crossing her arms over her chest. So did he tell you where your mother is from? Can we just not talk about it? It was supposed to be a question, but it definitely came out as more of a demand. You didn't even ask him, did you? I clenched my jaw and fists simultaneously. I was too much of a bitch to swing at my dad. But Daniela was another story. Donnie, drop it, I demanded. But I knew she wouldn't. Kaye, you can't do this again. Watch me, I fired back. I turned angrily to stomp away from her like the 5-year-old that I felt like in that moment. But her small hand grasped my wrist. Let's just pretend for a second that he's just a guy in there. That he's not your father, she said, causing my brows to knit together in confusion. But he is. Do you really want to call someone like that your father? She accused. I stayed silent. Well, no, he is a guy. Kaye, just some guy. He doesn't have to mean shit to you if you don't want him to. It's easier said than done. Donnie, I muttered, staring back down at the cold, concrete floors. Listen, Daniela sighed, taking a step toward me. I know how it feels to have a parent think you aren't good enough, to have a lot of people think you aren't good enough. A parent especially. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I'm a girl doing what everyone believes is a man's job. And when I find my mate, he will take over the title that I've worked so hard for, and I'll be pushed back to an equal ranking. But we all know that that's not the case, she explained, using finger quotations around equal ranking. It wasn't a secret that females had less power. They are involved in less. Their opinions aren't heard of as much. They are supposed to be equal, but they aren't. I was told my entire life that it's how it had to be because I would never be good enough. I'd never be strong enough. We're strong enough. We're good enough. You're good enough. Kaye, you just have to realize whose opinions about you matter and whose don't. And I'll give you a hint. If their name doesn't start with Kaye and end with a Alish, then FK them. I was silent. I was thinking. She made a good point. She made a really good point. But I couldn't help but feel weirded out that Daniela was being so nice to me. It was really clouding my thoughts. I promise, as your Luna, I'm going to make sure you don't lose what you've worked so hard for, I stated with certainty and a small smile. She gave me a small smile in return and released my hand. I made my way back to the door. He's just a man. Kaye, Daniela reminded me as I placed my hand on the door handle. Just some guy. It was strange to think that the room felt different. I walked in and found him right back to where he was before, sitting silently on his chair in the middle of the room. Just some guy. We need to talk, I said lowly. My voice was strong, but serious. I was doing my absolute best to be as brave as possible. My hands were practically drenched in sweat from my nerves, but it was fine. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Well, you. No, I snapped angrily. You can shut the FK up for once. And let me speak. You are in my territory. I could see the anger erupt in his eyes. Just some guy. Do you want to say that? Again. Words that used to feel like they could strangle me, now felt a little like a kick to the gut. Instead of scaring me though, they made me angry. You can shut the FK up. I repeated myself slowly as I stopped toward him. Kaya, why do you have to be like this? Your brother FK. You, FKU. I am not my brother. I am not my mother. And I am not you. In a matter of seconds, he was in front of me with his hand raised. For a split second, fear rose within me. I felt a small urge to back into a corner with my head down and beg him for forgiveness. But in that moment, I heard it. I don't know if it was my conscience or if Daniela was chanting it like her life depended on it from the other side of the door. But I heard it. Just some guy. As quickly as he brought his hand up, I brought my fist back and launched it dead center into his face. Based on the sound that was made, either broke my hand or broke his nose. He fell backward into a heap on the floor. After seeing the blood spilling from his face, I knew I'd managed to break his nose. A sadistic smile made its way to my face. You want to try that again? I taunted, getting into his face. I stepped back and walked around him as if I was a predator. And he was my prey. I threw the alpha of C. Edis through a table because I was mad at Caden. I'm sure you can only imagine what I could do to you since the anger I have toward you runs so much deeper. Kaya, you're better than this. He groaned as he tried wiping away the gushing blood from his nose. I laughed in a way that would almost seem evil. No, I'm not. Enjoying the newly found power I had. I never felt like this before. It was exciting. But thanks for thinking so highly of me. I could see the fear in Parker's eyes. It was obvious to me no matter how well he disguised it. Where's Nolan from? I quickly cut to the chase. He sat up slowly, watching me closely. You want to know where your mother is from? That's why I'm here. No, you're still here because my mate knows that if he killed you, I would have been very upset with him. I responded simply. But if you don't tell me where Mom is from, I might kill you myself. The room fell silent. Our gazes never left one another. As if it were straight from a horror film, Parker's blank facial expression slowly turned upward into a smile. Oh, Kaye. That was good. It really was. You really had me going there for a second. Now come on. Let's get me out of here. His words were calm and had warmth to them. My brain did not know how to comprehend what was happening. I was being serious. I stated, trying my hardest to keep my voice strong. My father's voice drowned it out. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. You really gave it all away when you said you'd actually kill me. That's funny. I only do this to make you better. You know that? The entire strong facade I had immediately fell. I know he just wants me to be strong. He wants me to be able to handle myself. Yeah, I said quietly. I know. I turned slowly and began making my way to the door. My chest felt heavy. Again, my throat was scratchy, and all that I wanted to do was scream out in an emotional pain. My father's laughter was the only thing reaching my ears in that moment. I placed my hand on the door handle and drew small circles on it with my thumb. I raised my eyes to the door and bit lightly on my lip. Matteo never hits me, I stated, quietly, causing his laughter to die down. What was that, sweetie? He asked with a slight chuckle. Matteo never hits me. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. He never does anything to hurt me. Well, not on purpose, I pointed out, feeling confidence in myself. I let my hand fall from the handle of the door and turned to face my father, who was now standing. And he never makes me feel dumb. And he's had so many opportunities. You know, I still can't read. Right. Do math. Things you said I would never need to know how to do, Kaye. Matteo is teaching me. I can spell my name. Jack's, Daniela's, to my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfading patience, enthusiasm. I still can't spell a lot, but he's teaching me, and somehow, he manages to do it without making me feel stupid or comparing me to everyone else. My voice was quiet, but I felt strength in my tone. I wasn't trying to act brave. I was trying to get my point across. He cares about me. He cares about what's best for me, and he does it without making me feel like less of a person than I actually am. I just want to see you strong, my dad concluded, speaking just as quietly as me. You've already lost your son. Mom is nowhere to be found, so I'm going to take a wild guess that you've lost her too. I already have someone that I love, so I wouldn't take losing you nearly as hard as you think. Without me, you'll have no one, nothing. Don't try to lose me. We both settled into silence. I wanted to continue, but didn't have the slightest idea of what to say. There was too much. There were too many things I was feeling, and I didn't know enough words to properly express them. Deciding it was best to just leave, I turned toward the door. I raised my hand to the handle when he finally did the most fatherly thing that he'd ever done for me. A piece ends, he admitted. She was from a piece ends. With that, I left my father in the cellar without a single word or even glance in his direction.